Welcome back. If you haven't seen the first video, you can find it here on YouTube. I'll link it in the description. But we've got this 1974 Mercury Capri with a bad engine. We had originally bought it with the plan to restore it, but due to the bad engine and extensive rust, we are going to put it in 24 hours of lemons. You can see here kind of the lack of rocker panels. You also see this quick jack, which is a very handy tool. And then trying to find wheels to fit the thing. It had 13-inch wheels on it with bad rubber. And so, we're constantly trying to put air in it. And those were some larger wheels that just barely fit. Anyway, we got a different solution. That solution will be apparent here in a second. First of all, circling back to the quick jack, very handy for working on a car. Highly recommend them. You can see here we're bringing it down off the quick jack. That front right tire constantly losing air because these are 4-lug 13-inch wheels. It's really hard to find tires for it. Anyway, we're using the set that came on it that are 30 years old and losing air to get it moved. But now we do have a solution for this, and that is this 2005 Mustang with the V6 in it that was involved in an accident, and we were able to pick up very cheaply. It wasn't running, but you can see it runs now. It ended up being some things had been knocked loose in the accident that we were able to hook back up. The engine ran strong, but we bought it as an unknown, going, well, we think, it was running when it got in the accident. We think we can get it running again, even though it wasn't running when we picked it up. Therefore, it being an older Mustang with a V6, we got it very cheaply. And we believe we'll be able to sell plenty of parts off it to keep us under the $500 limit for lemons, even with the purchase cost of the Mercury. So we want this V6 out of here. This is a 4-liter V6, but it is a direct descendant of the engine that was in the Mercury Capri. Of course, refined with an overhead cam now, bigger displacement, but this makes 210 horsepower, where the original 2.8-liter version of this engine, both engines still made in Germany, but the original made 105 horsepower, and this one makes 210 with the catalytic converters. Now we're going to take the catalytic converters out of the equation, and I hope that'll let it breathe a little freer, and we'll make up even a little bit more horsepower. Regardless, we're doubling the horsepower that the Capri originally had by putting in essentially the grandson of the original engine out of this 2005 Mustang. Now, we want lots of parts off this Mustang, but they're also related to engine and wiring and computer and drivetrain. We're taking this as a 5-speed manual transmission in the Mustang. We're going to take that over. But all the parts that come off the Mustang, we're going to sell those to offset. Now, a lot of these aren't much use because they were damaged in the accident, but things like even that hood liner can be sold, and once you get into the interior and rear trunk lid and doors and window mechanisms and all those things, whatever we're able to sell from that will offset the cost as far as it being a lemons donor. Now I'm working on, let's see, I got the radiator out of there. Also pulled the fenders off just for space. There we got the power steering and the AC unit out. The AC had been damaged in the accident. It didn't have any pressure in it, so we didn't have to pump that out. Let's see, remove the battery. Of course, you'll see me, working on harnesses and stuff. Right now, down underneath, I think I'm disconnecting the exhaust manifolds, or the exhaust from the manifolds. Yeah. Anyway, And then this is, of course, over the, this is over several days. I just go in and put in an hour out in the garage most nights. My helpers, let's see, what did we take there? That was the ignition system, the plug wires. Here we've got the idler pulley and the alternator. Again, more harnessing work. We've got to label all the harnesses. You see all the blue tape. Because I'm hoping to reuse the entire computer system and associated sensors. There we've got the intake manifold off, and now it's time to get the drive shaft. Yeah, I wanted to drop that exhaust, and it just ended up being things in the way. Cut the muffler. I should have just cut it at the halfway point, is what I should have done. But instead I just kind of said, it can stay there, and I can take the drive shaft off with it there. It's not going to bother me that much. Getting the drive shaft off was a struggle. Actually broke a 12mm wrench in the early going part of this. But we got better tools for the job, better sockets to fit those 12-point fasteners on the drive shaft. And so we get that out of there. I want to reuse the drive shaft. I'll have it shortened, but I can take it to the drive shaft shop, and there's plenty to take out of that back half of the drive shaft, which is just a simple tube, and then we'll have it rebalanced, and it should work. So yeah, I'd like to use actually the whole rear suspension setup, except for the springs. I will use the regular leaf springs from the that are still on the Mercury, the Capri, and we may have to create new mounting points. I realize we get into suspension geometry with all this stuff, and that is a little intimidating, but we'll see what we can do, how much we can borrow and move over to the Mercury. Here again, you see me kind of fighting with the exhaust. I want it to just drop out, but the K engine support member up front blocks it, and the rear suspension blocks it. So without cutting it in the middle, I can't get it out. But since I plan to take the front suspension out too, I figured I'm just going to leave it set for now. So here I'm getting some straps put in. I'm disconnecting O2 sensors and wiring associated with the transmission. I think a little earlier I was removing transmission linkage connections. And now it's time to hook this thing up and see if it'll come out. Now, with the car up on the quick jacks, it's sitting a little higher than it would be otherwise. And as I lifted the engine, I went, well, this is going to be quite the lift. Should I lower the car? I have to put the wheels back on. And then I decided, well, you know what? We aren't saving the body for anything. So this crumpled front cross member, we just took the Sawzall, cut it out, and went ahead and pulled everything straight out through the front of the car. Now you may be wondering, where's my helping crew from the first video? And Keaton is his work has taken him out of state for a little bit. So I'm kind of on my own, making the progress I can. Kind of want to stay on schedule. The goal is to have the car ready for September, and so there's quite a bit of work to do in taking everything off the Mustang. And we'll end this video here with getting the engine out. We'll do another one when we do rear suspension. I'm going to take the front suspension, whether I use it or not. I'm going to take it off, and then we got to get all the wiring, computers, and those things, plus, sell the doors, mirrors, interior. Thanks for watching.